Hello, everyone. I am so happy that everyone is here. That means that the links worked and you got the reminder. So I like to be very respectful of everyone's time and start right on time. But before we get started, just to buy people a couple more minutes, let me know where you are in the chat, where you are, where you're from. Hi, Mike DL, it's good to see you. And Leslie and Leah and Darcia and everybody that usually joins, and Laura, thank y'all so much for being here. I'm glad this resonates. Scranton, Pennsylvania. Is it still cold there? That is the major question. Oh, Laura, far. All right, backyard people. Connecticut. It is so cool. It's warmer today, maybe 70. Oh, not so bad. Not so bad. That's what I'm talking about. So, but thank y'all so much for being here. I like to give people one more minute, 12:02, get started. And I promise that you will still have just a little bit of time for lunch, if you so choose to, while we're doing this. And no more than an hour. I truly try to go about 45 minutes or so and give you as much information as I possibly can within that time. And we'll even do some Q&A at the end if anybody has any questions that they want to ask about. So with that in mind, I am going to ask for grace and space, as I always do, because it is truly different when you are on this end of doing things. So I am going to share my screen and I am going to make sure. Let me know what you're seeing. Are you seeing the PowerPoint that does not have the black around it? Perfect. That's what I need you to see. So let's do this from the beginning here and get into this, because this is actually one of my favorite things to do, because I truly feel like one of my superpowers is building relationships. So now that I've done that, is that still what you're seeing? You're still seeing the regular old PowerPoint. Perfect, my dear. Thank you for your input. So welcome to Stewardship Beyond the Thank You. This is an opportunity to rise above the pack and fundraise better with an effective stewardship strategy for your nonprofit. Again, this is one of my favorite topics, one of my favorite things to do. So forgive me as I get excited about this, because I know this one is a game changer. So on average, only 34% of your donors this year will be retained the following year. So what does that really mean? That means you're getting these donors, but you're only keeping 34% of them. And so it costs you more money to actually go out and get more donors. And it's not only just your money, it's also your time. And I know as busy professionals that you are in this nonprofit world, do you really have any more time to give? And so this is something that you can focus on that is going to be a great use of your time. So what happens when you don't steward your donors or your prospects? They become less engaged. They are unsure how their donation makes a difference. They're going to forget about you. In all honesty, they're going to lose trust as they are unsure as to how their dollars are being used, and they don't feel valued. You're not making them feel valued, and they're going to give their money somewhere else. So retaining your existing donors is key. And it's a key challenge, and it's a key challenge for most nonprofits. But the one thing is, do nothing to keep your donors involved, and they will stop giving. So that's the big elephant in the room that we talked about. And I get excited about stewardship because I use Stewardship Beyond the Thank You for over 15 years as the CEO of a nonprofit organization, and I increased my annual operating budget from $750,000 to $2.5 million and completed a $12 million comprehensive capital campaign. Not only that, I started and grew an endowment to $500,000 and had a 180-day cash reserve. And my organization was located along the Mexico-Texas border in the third poorest county in the United States. So I know this works. So today, you will leave this webinar ready to deepen and expand relationships with donors. And when you do that, you'll keep more donors. And when you keep more donors, you will raise more money. And that is what this is about. Moving your organization forward, getting the money that you need to make this happen. So you're in the right place for today's training. It is perfect for you if you want to keep your current donors, if you want to raise more money, if you want to move your donors up the ladder to repeat gifts, and you want to stop working so hard to get donors. So you're worth it. Let's start with that. So I want you to close your emails. I want you to close the 20 browsers that you currently have open. And I have some open and I had to close them too. I want you to close the door. And if you're at home, I want you to ask those kids, don't kill each other right now, and give you this next hour just to focus on what you need to focus on. And before we get started, know that this is being recorded. If you have any questions, chat them. I will get to them at the end. And again, just so that you can have a seamless webinar without a lot of interruptions, check your internet connection and close the other tabs. I repeat that one because that I'm talking to myself too. Close those other tabs. So with all that being said, I am Sabrina Walker Hernandez. A little bit about me. I studied political science and public administration. I obtained a nonprofit management certification from Harvard Business School. And for the last 25 years, I've worked in the nonprofit industry. I've worked in direct services, operations, and executive leadership. And in 2018, I was diagnosed with cancer and felt I needed to retire. And since then, I've been helping small nonprofit staff and board build relationships that convert into more donations. And again, people always ask me why I keep the cancer in there. And I tell them that is the mission behind my company. I started this company to support overworked, often stressed out, overwhelmed nonprofit professionals, especially those fundraisers and those executive directors. And because of that, I offer a lot of no-cost services, such as these webinars once a month, and I do interviews, and I have a resource library that I hope you're accessing that has sample documents in it. And so really, I am here to support you. That is the mission of my company. So I'm using everything I learned to get you there faster. There's no point for you to reinvent the wheel. So I want you to imagine a day when all your fundraising systems are in place and you're raising money even when you're sleeping. Imagine a day when someone comes up to you and says, I love the work that your nonprofit is doing, and I'd like to write you a check right now. I've had that happen to me, so it can happen. I want you to imagine a day when fundraising has become so easy and fun, and you always have enough to fund your mission. So that's one thing that I know, and this is the little formula that I always use. Relationships plus results equals reoccurring revenue. That means you're going to retain your donors. If you build relationships with them, you show them impact, it will lead to money. And it's going to lead to reoccurring money. So donor retention, that we set that stage, it must be a priority if you want to survive and thrive in today's competitive nonprofit marketplace, period. There is no argument or excuses or discussion needed. Securing donors only to lose them is not a good business practice. And a nonprofit is a business. Nonprofit is just a tax designation. It is still a business and you must conduct it as such. So let's get into it. What is stewardship? So I always say fundraising is like dating, right? And so stewardship is that piece where you're think of it like marriage, because I always equate it to dating and relationships. So you basically think of stewardship like a marriage. Your organization is partner with your donors, and throughout the year, you share special moments, just like a couple. So you have holidays, anniversaries, birthdays, thinking of you texts. We appreciate you videos. Shower them with a little attention, and it will make the partnership that much sweeter. So basically, that's what stewardship is. And if you've attended my webinars prior, you know there's a process in fundraising. It's identifying, cultivating, asking, and then stewardship. And so stewardship is about 10% of the fundraising process. I will remind you, although this is not about cultivation, that cultivation is 60%. But this 10% matters. This 10% is what's going to set you apart from the pack. So there are some stewardship basics that I just want to go over because I don't want to assume that everyone knows the basics. So let's get into the basics and then we'll get into what we do beyond the basics. So when it comes to stewardship, remember these three simple things. Thank donors promptly and warmly. Give donors information about how their gifts is going to be used, and honor the intentions of your donors. Use the donor gifts how you told them you were going to use it, and then recognize the donor in a way that you agreed to. If you do just those three things, your organization will distinguish itself from many other nonprofits and will be able to maintain and increase the support of existing donors while attracting new support as well. And I will tell you this, doing just those three things will set you apart. How do I know that? Because I give to nonprofits all the time. Just in this last 24 hours, I've given 3 nonprofits. And how many thank yous have I got 24 hours later? None. Do I anticipate getting any? Probably not. We are horrible at the stewardship piece, but we're such givers and such heart people. So I don't know why we are horrible at it, but if we get better at it, it will make a difference for our organization. So again, the basics. Donors should be thanked within 24 hours of receiving a gift. A thank you card, it should be warm and genuine. Assure them that their funds will be used as intended and affirm that their investment will make a difference and give concrete examples. Here's some ideas to get you started. I always like to do some practical things because you're like, ain't nobody got time to write no thank you cards, right? That's something else I have to add to my list. Well, here's something you can do that's going to help you put a system in place for this that should not cost you as much time. So at the end of each board meeting, have board members write thank you cards and sign them. Don't address them to anyone. Collect them and have a stockpile on your desk. When the gifts come in, all you got to do is add your name at the bottom and add their name and send them off, right? You can also recruit a group of board members willing to make a few calls on a regular basis, or have board members host a annual donor thank-a-thon at a designated board meeting. So those are just some ideas to get you started on the basics. And when the board is doing the thank you cards at the meeting, give them exactly what to say. Already have a script for them. Don't make them think. What you want them to do is simply write it out in their handwriting, sign it, give it to you, and then you add the names when the donor comes in. So if you can make it as easy for your board members as possible, that's what you need to do. That's how you're going to get them engaged in the fundraising process. So the personal thank you again, it needs to be personal, as in what we're saying, and you can really focus it on new success stories that you've had at the beginning and the end of the letter itself. It doesn't have to change. What changes is the middle. Let me tell you about Sabrina, who received her first book. If you work in literacy, so you're going to tell them a story in that, and that's going to help keep your thank yous fresh, regardless of when the donor gives, especially if they're getting repeat gifts. You don't want to use the same standard story every time, because then they're going to get the same information every time. So if you just update that on a monthly basis, share a different story. When you have if you're having your board meetings monthly, the script will change, focus on a different story. That will be great. So beyond the thank you, one of the first things that you can do, although I consider this a basic step, is send your donors a personalized video after each donation. And you can start with a warm and personal intro, followed by a story or a testimonial, or how their donation is already making a difference. The whole goal is to make it warm and make it personal. So imagine the donor is your favorite aunt or your uncle, and you speak as you would to them. And you don't, again, it doesn't have to be complicated. You use your cell phone. You can use a generic thank you video, which allows you the ability to text the video if you're using your cell phone. You can have the video be from a client if possible, but if you want to personalize the video, you can use video platforms such as BombBomb, and you can .com, and you can do that right from your desktop, and then it gives you the ability to text it out and do some other things. And BombBomb is actually very cost effective. I looked into it. I believe it's like $29. I don't know if it's a month or $29 for the year. I know that makes a difference, but look into that. That's going to streamline that for you. But again, you don't have to make it complicated. Use your cell phone, record a generic thank you video, text it out to people. And if that video can come from your client, even better. That's one of the very easiest things you can do. The other thing that you're going to do is you're going to make sure that the language that you use in your thank you cards, in your notes, in your video is very donor centered. And so here I've given you some examples of what's organization centric and what's donor centric. We want to go to the donor centric way. So let's just go over one or two of these examples. So thank you so much for your support. We provided 20 meals to people in our community for every $50 donated. So that's very organizational centric. We provided 20 meals. We. You need to say thank you. The whole goal of donor centric is to make the donor the hero. So thank you so much for your support. Your $50 gift will provide 20 meals for the people in need in your community. So it's a slight different change of the way you say things, and you make it about the donor. So your goal is to make the donor the superhero. So let's take this last one so you can get another idea. Every time I hike the beautiful trails in our state park, I'm reminded of the importance of protecting the land we love. And we've already achieved so much together. That's very organization centric, whereas donor centric, tweak it just a little bit. And it literally is just a little bit. Every time I hike the beautiful trails in our state parks, I'm reminded of the importance of protecting the land we love. And because of your generous support, this land will bring joy for generations to come. So you're telling them because of them, this is happening. And so when you are doing your thank you cards, use these as your sample scripts that you give to your board members. Use these examples and customize it for your organization, and make sure you're using donor-centric language. So give donors information about how gifts are or will be used. I can't stress this enough. Donors don't care about what you do. Those are activities. Donors care about how many people you serve, don't care about how many people you serve. Those are outputs. Donors want to understand the impact of your work. They want to know who is being helped. They want to know how lives are being changed. They want to know how their investment in your nonprofit is making a real difference in the world. So let's give them what they want. Don't forget about the donor-centric language. So your donors, they want to hear stories about your successful outcomes. They want to know how their impact, how their investment has had an impact. So you need to collect and organize and share amazing stories with your donors. And these stories should be included in your newsletter, in your annual report, on your social media feeds, when you meet with donors, in your thank you letters. These stories, we are a story telling society. We remember stories more than we remember numbers or figures and any of that. So keep that in mind. You need to be collecting the stories. And when you collect those stories, you have to connect the dots between the donor gifts and the actual impact. Again, this is their hard-earned money. And they want to know, I'm giving you my hard-earned money. What is that money accomplishing? Because they have a choice about where they give their money to. And you want to make sure that they choose you. And we know this because all the research, they're telling us they want to know where their hard-earned money is going. What is it accomplishing? So 53% of donors do not renew their giving because the organization failed to properly communicate in one way or the other. 46% of donors leave for the reasons tied to a lack of meaningful info. They didn't feel appreciated. They didn't know what was happening with their money. 75% of the donor list information on results achieved with their gifts as their top requirement to motivation for future giving. So if you tell them what is happening with their money, 75% of them says that motivates them to give more. So sharing that story, sharing it, that's just the basics of stewardship. Now we're going to be talking about going beyond the thank you. That is why you are here. So going beyond the thank you, you're like, okay, I'm sending the card, I'm sending a video. That's standard. That is standard. We want you to go beyond the standard. If I can get you to do the standard, I would be more than grateful, because a lot of us are not good at doing the standard. But I want you to adopt the standard and it becomes common practice. And I want you to go beyond the thank you, because that is where the magic is. And so how can you do that when you're wearing multiple hats? And I understand the struggle because I was in the struggle. So I'm going to give you some ideas. You're going to send postcards or emails during the holidays like New Year's, Valentine's Day, Easter, 4th of July, Thanksgiving, Christmas. If your organization has a week of recognition, maybe even during that time. And I would also say send a minimum of 2 gratitude messages a year by mail, because donors will more likely see those. I get the warm and fuzzies when I get mail, because all I get in the mail now is junk mail. And so when I get something from an organization, I'm like, ooh, this is good. So I like that. So send at least 2 a year. Other ideas that you can start to do quarterly is ask for feedback or advice. That is a part of stewardship. Make a personal phone call, pick up the phone, invite them to volunteer opportunities, get your board involved, assign each board member 5 accounts. And for lack of a better word, that's 5 donors, and have them touch them 5 times a year, once a quarter plus 1, right? So for me, that's simple. I call it the 5x5 plan, and one board member has 5 donors that they are responsible for cultivating and stewarding if the gift comes. So again, it's really about showing your donor a heartfelt process and a heartfelt message that what they are giving to your organization really makes a difference. So that is the simple way that you can get started. But let me say, it does take planning. I would be remiss if I didn't say that. But my goal is to help you along that journey so that you don't get overwhelmed in that process. And I'm so happy that you showed up here, because as you know, you will get a lot of templates at the end. And it's so easy to use the templates. But let me tell you this is what I would do. So you need to create a stewardship plan. And a stewardship plan for your nonprofit will help you not only build better relationships with your donors, but it will help you increase loyalty and ultimately result in more immediate donations over time. So create steps to creating a plan. Now, step one, you're going to form a donor stewardship task force. Why am I going to form a task force if Sabrina's just going to give me the templates and I can fill it in and then share it with my board and say, this is our plan? Well, if you do it like that, you don't have any buy-in. So you don't have any buy-in, and you're not getting your board members engaged in fundraising. So although it's very tempting to skip this step, I say don't skip this step. Have a task force, and maybe if that task force only meets once or twice, share with them the template and say, okay, here's a starting point for us. Where do we want to go? How do we want to do this? And that'll take 1 or 2 meetings, but at least they're engaged in the process. And then once it's finalized, you can have the task force member presented at the board meeting, so that there's someone else talking at the board meeting other than the CEO or the executive director. Okay, will it take a little bit longer to do it this way? Yes, but you have to look at the long-term goal of engaging the board in the fundraising process. And if they engage in this process and is a part of it, then they're more likely to implement it. So don't skip this part. Step 2 is you're going to segment your donors into categories or levels. So you're going to think about new donors, major donors, loyal donors are examples of different segments that you could do. And when you are segmenting your donors, it's important to have that information. And one way you're going to have that information is if you have a CRM system. There's a lot of CRM systems out there that are free if you have less than 250 donors. I know Bloomerang has a Bloomerang Lite that's free if you have, I think it is less than 250 donors. There's others that have them that if you have less than 500 donors, then it's free. So money should not be an object or obstacle that you need to overcome, especially if you have a small list. So, and then step 3 is going to be develop stewardship and recognition opportunities beyond the thank you. And so some of those opportunities, again, that we talked about is sending handwritten cards on important dates like birthdays, anniversary, holidays, inviting them to participate in volunteer opportunities, inviting them to major events such as lunches, galas, town halls, or other experiences, sending them surveys and asking for feedback and exploring their interests, and creating and sending reports on both the impact of a donor's gift and the work your organization is doing. And then step 4, you're going to outline your communication strategy and stewardship matrix. So you said all of that, Sabrina. I'm a visual person. What does that look like? Well, I'm glad you asked. This is what it looks like. Here is one sample of a donor stewardship matrix. And so you can create, I'm going to give you lots of templates. This is one sample of how you can do it. So this particular one, it divides it up into 4 categories: how you're going to acknowledge them, how you're going to recognize them, what reporting you're going to do, and what's the ongoing engagement. And it tells you exactly what communication type is going to happen, what's the timeline, and these are the segments. new donors, loyal donors, major donors, planned giving donors. And this is how an example of what your stewardship matrix template would look like. Okay, so that's a visual for my visual people out there. And again, you will get some of these templates just by joining here live. But again, here's one of the important lessons I learned early on in my fundraising career as a small nonprofit. I did not have a resource development team. I was the CEO and I was the resource development team. And so when you're in that situation, I try to keep it as simple as possible for myself. And so for me, the formula that I used for a very long time was for every 0 a donor gives, that equal to a touch that they will receive in that year. So for example, if the donor gives $99 or less, that's 1 0, they got 1 touch. And that 1 touch was a thank you card and the video. If they gave between $100 and $999, that's 2 touches. So you send them 2 things, you know, and then if they give $1,000 to $9,999, they get 3 touches because that's 3 zeros. So you get the point, right? And so for me, because of the seat that I sat in and because it was just me as the resource development team, this was very simple for me. The only thing that I did add to this was new donor packets, which we're going to talk about later in this presentation. So examples, ideas, and best practices, because I want to give you as much information and examples that I can to help get your thoughts stimulated. Again, I kept it simple. The 0 system was for me, but I did have a first-time donor packet. And this is something that a lot of organizations don't do. But if you make that first-time donor feel good, they will come back to you. And then I use the same process for monthly giving reoccurring donors as well. Because oftentimes we forget about our reoccurring donors. I am a reoccurring donor for 2 organizations, and I called a couple of them out. Well, one of them, I'm only a member of 2 reoccurring, but I called one of them out, and I was like, "You didn't call, you didn't check on me, you didn't do anything for the whole year, but in Christmas time, I got a email asking for more money." I was like, personally, I'm offended. And so I shared that with them. And so you cannot forget about your monthly givers as well. So add that as one of your segments if you have a monthly giving program. You need to thank them because you're actually taking them for granted. So the other best practice is, especially if you're a one-shot person like I was, is schedule monthly time for making thank you calls, right? Tell your story as much as possible. Remember, I said collect stories, talk to the program staff, have them share those unique stories, know about those stories. Keep updating and changing the thank you letters and communications. That's why you need the stories. Every month, change the story. You know, get your annual report digitized and viral to reach more of your supporters. There is a website called yearly.com where you can digitize your annual report for free. And so don't be afraid to do that. And again, make special thank you videos, share it on your landing pages, share it in your email, share it on social media, text it to your donors, all of those things. Other examples, ideas, and best practices. Host an appreciation event. That was one of my favorite things to do. We actually got a donor who had a beautiful house with the pool and everything, and she loved to give parties. And so every year she would host our donor appreciation event, anything to throw a party. And we would just invite everybody who's given to us and anybody we want to give to us to this event. And it was social by the pool with a little wine, some appetizers. We sprinkled in information about the organization, but it really was, you know, come have a good time. And we're not asking for money. We just want to say thank you. And if you can get someone to host it and pay for it, even better. So resolve any donor complaints and issues within 24 hours. I cannot stress this enough. I know it's a part of the job that you don't want to deal with, but the best email that you can send when a complaint comes up is, thank you for making me aware of it. Allow me some time to look into it, and I will get back with you. Send that immediately when you get a complaint. You don't have to resolve it immediately, but acknowledge that you received it. Don't wait days, look into what they said, or hours and go look into what they say and then respond. Just respond immediately. Thank you for making me aware of it. Allow me some time to look into it, and I will get back with you. So that has made a difference, a huge difference in how you address complaints and issues. So keep track of significant events, birthdays, anniversaries, surgeries, life events, all of those things. Because if someone had a surgery, you may want to send them a get well card. If their child got married, you want to acknowledge that. And so you need to keep track of those significant events. Genuinely make an effort to get to know your donors, have those phone conversations, do those visits with them, where I call them discovery visits, where we're talking to them and you're asking them questions because you're trying to get to know them. Communicate with your donors with a newsletter. Let them know the impact that their gift has been making on the client. Share, again, success stories. And designate an area in your newsletter where you list your donors and thank them for their support. Also, here are some more example ideas and best practices. Again, phone calls and visits are powerful. As I stated before, just getting to know your donors by picking up the phone and visiting them and having 3 questions that you're trying to get them to answer. You can ask them, why did you decide to donate to our organization? What other organizations do you donate to in the community? What's your passion? Ask these questions when you're talking to them so that you can discover what motivates them. So then you can begin to customize the messaging that you're sending them. Prepare a news release for the local newspaper on National Philanthropy Day. Yes, there is a National Philanthropy Day. To thank your community, or when you get a significant gift, left that word out, or when you get a significant gift. Of course, that's if the donor wants you to do that. And I will say that the week of April the 18th is National Volunteer Week. So there is an opportunity there as well to do a news release to recognize some of your volunteers. Always be thinking of new ways you can acknowledge donors and supporters on your social media channel. Even make behind the scenes videos of your work in action, conduct an interview with donors, program recipients, program directors. I used to love conducting interview with donors, and they weren't video interviews per se. I would send them a set of questions, and then they would respond to those questions and share a headshot, and then I would use that in my newsletter. Because that is good, because other people see those community members giving back. And a lot of us want to be a part of the bandwagon. You're like, hey, if Sabrina is giving to that organization and really supports it, maybe I should look into that organization and see if that's something that I want to do. So share photos of your volunteers or work in action. Take your donors behind the scenes again, give them an insider view to help them feel more connected to your organization. And again, leverage social media to strengthen the relationships with your donors. So this is where my small shop people like I was, this is where you have to put just a little bit of effort. And trust me, I know what it's like to put those efforts, because you're putting out multiple fires at multiple times. But I'm going to tell you, there is some benefit to time blocking and making things a habit. And so how are you going to do that? You're going to make stewardship a habit. And here's an example of a timeline that you could potentially adopt for yourself. So you could say the first Wednesday of every month, I'm going to call donors. That could be, for me, that was the day of my board meeting. I would call the donors. And then 1 week out, prior to that, I would run the list, no more than 10 people on my list, 10 at a time, run that list, get that list from my CRM system, or and then have that list and then make those calls. 1 month out, write the script for the board, or for my, for the board members that agreed to be on the thanking team or the stewardship team. And that script that you're going to take to the board meeting to do the thank you cards. 3 days out, you can distribute that list to the staff, the board, and any beneficiaries that are helping you make the calls, because it doesn't have to be you that makes the call, especially in a small shop. If you have staff, have some of the staff help you. I would have my operations person help me. But more than that, I would have my board members help me. That gives them an active role in the fundraising process. And then 3 days after, you follow up with a clean list. You say thank you to the callers. You note feedback. You record any gifts that you receive. And, some donors do make an additional gift when you call and say thank you. So you have to make it a habit. Build a timeline that works for you. But these are all the little steps that it takes to start making this process a habit. So here's a sample thank you script. Hi, this is Sabrina Walker Hernandez, and I'm a board member with Village in the Valley. I'm calling to say thank you for your generous donation of $500. Because of you, we can continue to provide scholarships and community service projects to our neighbors. Through our community closet, we have provided those in need the most with clothing, and we know more is needed. So we really appreciate your support. Very simple script. This is more of a thank you call script, but empower everybody that's on your team with the same script. Board members, staff, yourself, have it written out for them, so it becomes more manageable and easy for them. So I remember I said I focused on first-time donors. So this is something that I really think that everyone should do. It's going to set you apart. If you can't do anything else and you have to pick, focus on those first-time donors, because there's a ton of research out there that says that nonprofit organization loses 70% of donors after their first gift. That means you get that one-time gift and that's it. That's all you get. So you are a business. Remember, I started off saying that you are a business. So keeping a customer is much less costly than acquiring a new one. So make sure your customer, the donor, is receiving the best service possible. Timely, thoughtful gratitude. So build a first-time donor nurture series where you love them up for 2 to 4 times over the course of 2 to 3 months. So if you have to pick and say, Sabrina, I can't do it, I only have this much time, then focus on those first-time donors. I encourage you to have a donor welcome packet as a part of that touch. Pretty simple. It's going to be a way that you can educate your new donors about your nonprofit while showing them that you care about your decision, about their decision to support your mission. So send them that packet, and you want to send it no later than 2 weeks after they made their first gift. So let's talk about how many touches they've gotten. They should have gotten the thank you 24 hours, and they should have gotten the video. Now the touch that's beyond is going to be the thank you packet. So they've got those 2 touches. Now you're going to send a thank you packet, first time donor packet 2 weeks later. And all you're going to include in that packet, you don't have to make it complicated. Get you some folders, put a sticker on it with your logo. If you don't have customized folders, you're going to put a photograph of your beneficiaries, whoever your clients are. You're going to have a story about your nonprofit impact, and you're going to send, and if you are doing that already in your newsletter, don't create anything different. Print a copy of your e-newsletter and put it in there. And then you're going to put a small token in there, not swag. You want to focus on something that brings them back to the mission. So this packet is really designed as a creative way to say thank you and welcome donors to your community. It shouldn't be a laundry list of series, facts, or figures about your nonprofit. Keep it simple. Picture of your client, a well-written story about the impact, and a small token gift that's focused on the mission. So tokens of appreciation. When I'm talking about that small token gift, I'm talking about a handmade Valentine's by your clients or your children in your program. I always put children because my background is with Boys and Girls Club. So I had a host of children that can make draw pictures or color and we turn it into a postcard. So framed or matted photos of the donors taken at an organization event, if you happen to have those, or a drawing made by a program client. These are things that's going to bring them back to the mission. So they need to be modest, inexpensive expressions that convey your gratitude and bring it back to the mission. So don't send me no water bottle with your logo on it. Don't send me a goodie bag. That's not what I'm talking about. You do not have to go and invest in those types of gifts. Really make it mission focused. So does stewardship work? It does. Bottom line is it does. And when you take it beyond, it's going to work even better. So there's been some studies out there, and you see the studies that's referenced here that says when you do stewardship well, the gift increased 39% and donors retention was 70% up over 14 months. So make sure you are investing in stewardship. And this study was based on having a control group and a group that was not controlled. So the donors who didn't receive focused attention did not give as much or did not come back to the table. So yes, stewardship is important, and yes, it works. So with that in mind, today I promised you, and I hope I delivered on this, was an understanding of why stewardship is important, an understanding of how to deepen and expand your relationships with donors, how you'll raise more money when you focus on stewardship, and how you'll retain more donors when you focus on stewardship. So at the end of the day, you have two choices. You can do it yourself and Google and do all these things, or you can fast track your results and do stewardship beyond the thank you. And I want to help you with that. So I've set aside some time in the next 72 hours to speak with you personally about how you can apply some of these ideas to your life today. So whatever your biggest challenge is in fundraising and building donor relationships, I've seen them and I know how to overcome them. And my goal, again, if you remember, the mission of my organization is to help nonprofit professionals. So I'm setting up breakthrough calls that are no cost. And the goal is for you to get some clarity on and how to overcome your biggest objections and to create a strategy to really address your biggest challenge. So who's perfect to set up these free calls with me? Don't waste my time. I won't waste your time. So look at this list and see if you fall into any of these. You feel like what you're doing is not working and you know some change is needed. You're wearing multiple hats, putting out fires, and you don't have time to work on fundraising and building relationships. You want to know how to get the board involved in stewardship. You're saying to yourself, it's just me, and I don't know how to get my board members to help with fundraising. If any of those is you, I encourage you to contact and reach out and take advantage of these breakthrough calls, because I am a passionate and mission driven to help nonprofit professionals like yourself. I also know how I've been able to help others like you who are struggling with fundraising. And remember, stewardship is the 10% part of fundraising, but it's a critical part of the fundraising process. And so I know how I can help on these breakthrough calls alone. And if we decide to continue to work together, that's great. If not, that's good too. And this is how you can schedule a breakthrough call. And the breakthrough call is by application only. And here is the link to actually book your call. With that, I'm going to check and I'm going to stop sharing the screen. I'm going to put my face back on. Hopefully you'll be able to see me. And then what I am going to do is check the chat for any of questions. I see chats going on here, and hopefully I will get to any questions. In the meantime, if anybody feels brave and want to come on and ask any questions, let me know. Someone, Aaliyah, is it weird to text an appreciation video to a donor if you've never texted with them before? No, it is not weird to do that, especially if they shared their cell phone number. I did that all the time. And actually, they would get a little tickle out of receiving the video, especially, and again, I will say this. I worked with kids. So oftentimes it would be the video would be of the kids saying thank you. And they really appreciate it. And it's almost like once you get in the text, you're moving the relationship to a next level. Because like you said, I've never texted them before. Well, now this is an opportunity to get in their texting stream. This is an opportunity to do that. And what a better way to start getting into that level of intimacy as far as a text. It's kind of like hitting someone up in their DMs, right? If you've never done it before, you're like, how do I get in their DMs? It's the same thing. Sending them a text and sending them that video text is really a gateway into that process. And they will appreciate it. I've gotten many of people who come back and say, oh, that was such a cute video. Thank you for sending it. National Philanthropy Day is November the 15th. So again, take advantage of those days, those national days to recognize someone. And April the 18th, the week of April the 18th is National Volunteer Day. So think about that and how you can incorporate that into donor recognition as well, and donor stewardship. Here's another question. Is there specific approach to follow up with donors attending a gala because of the honoree, not because they support the mission or the nonprofit? Oh, that is such a good one, because we had a gala and that's exactly what we did. It was in honor of someone. So oftentimes they were there because of the honoree. And so what we would do is we would do an intentional gathering of information, and we would just start the process of adding them to our e-newsletter, to our email list, sharing our impact with them. Actually having one of the best things, I guess, that we did was we had the honoree send them a thank you letter for being a part of the event, and then encouraging them to continue to support the organization. And more so on the night of the event too. This is a little tip that we did on the night of the event, because we understood they were there because of the honoree. We did this thing called Light Up the Room. And so basically we had like these flashing light pins, and we would turn off all the lights in the facility. And when they purchased those pins for $25 or $50 or whatever the amount is, you can keep it low, high, whatever, you got to know your crowd. Then they would get that pin, right? And we did those sales throughout the night, and then we turned off the lights, and then we said, okay, everybody who purchased a pin, turn your pin on. And then that pin would light up the room. So that was one way we were going to guarantee to get a gift, because that's like peer pressure. And it doesn't have to even be an expensive thing. One time we used those novelty rings that you get from the vending machine from the novelty stores, and all you had to do was press the ring, and then they lit up. So it wasn't even a huge investment, but you see the power of everybody giving in that room because the room is lit up. So that was one way we got them to give. But then continuing in that relationship to move them on to repeat donors, we had the honoree send a thank you out to them. We added them to our email list, and we just start sending them monthly emails and engaging them in that process. So that's how we would do it. And there's many ways, but that's just what I know. So that is, let me check. Yes. Will you be sending out the recording, presentation, etc.? Yes, I will be. I will be sending it out to everyone as well. And if anybody feels brave enough to ask a question, we have about 4 more minutes. If you want to go for the hour, I'm more than willing to answer any other questions. If not, I will say that is my presentation to you. So any questions? Okay, the silence. You need your documentation. You need your links and what I'm going to give you. Don't let me forget about those things. So let me get to the links and what the files that I am going to be uploading to you. Let's get that going. Let's do that. So I am going to drop the files here to everyone so that you can download them. And if you can't download them, let me know, because then I can drop a Google link. I'm trying to make sure that I do it in multiple ways, because some people are able to download them and some people are not. So I want to be cognitive of that. So what I promised you is, let's see, what did I promise? But I am very appreciative that you guys join and you join live. So let's get these documents to you. And the documents that you're receiving from me is going to be a template for the communication and stewardship, which is uploaded there. You're also going to receive from me a sample stewardship calendar, which is uploaded. And you're also going to receive from me, which I love this one because I like major gifts. This is a stewardship plan for major gifts and planned giving, if you're not talking about planned giving as of yet. And I would also like to drop the links there just in case you're having trouble with getting those documents. So give me a moment I put them all in one location so that I could just drop them for you. And you will be able to access those from Google Drive and get them. So let's put that in there. Now with all of these, everybody should be good. Everybody should have access. I will give you 1 minute before I end so everybody can grab it. And we should be good, guys. Thank y'all so much for your time. I know you have a choice about where you spend your time. And so again, I thank you for choosing to spend your time with me. I would like to invite you to next Wednesday. You can't miss this conversation. The Sipping Tea with Sabrina is going to be with Rachel Meir. And if y'all don't know who Rachel Meir is, she is awesome. I have followed her for years, even when I was a CEO. She started a nonprofit in her living room with a $500 credit card, and she grew it into a $10 million nonprofit. And she also was a guest on Oprah as a part of her nonprofit. So she has a lot to share. And it's going to be next Wednesday, a live stream, and it's going to be from 10 a.m. to 10:45 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I encourage y'all to really tune in for that one because she has a lot of nuggets. I was able to grow my budget to 2.5, but she grew hers to 10 million. So between the two of us, we got some lessons that we can talk about that you can pull and grab from any of those. So I see there's a raised hand, but it's one. So yes.
Hi, Sabrina. I just wanted to thank you for this. I just discovered you yesterday, and you seem like a beautiful treasure that I hope to come back to. So thank you. I'm glad to be in your community. I really appreciate you. This is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And welcome to the community. And let me know if you need anything, because I'm here to support you. So
absolutely.
So with that, I would say, y'all, it's 1 o'clock. Yay, I did it. I would say y'all have a blessed day and thank you for your time. I know you have a choice about where you spend your time. So thank you for spending your time with me. Y'all be blessed. Bye-bye.